Well, thank you everybody for listening to the agentXcel podcast. Today we have Daniel Papin. What's up, Daniel?
What's going on, man?
Hey, man, thanks for coming in. I just wanted to bring you in for a conversation because I always look at people and I'm like, what would be an interesting topic to talk about? And you, ever since I've known you, probably 6-7 months, I would say, I know you were doing commercial and residential real estate, which is unique. I only have one person close to me who pulls both those off. Yeah. They're like such a different clientele.
Yeah.
So that's why I brought you on. And so let's just freestyle a conversation. So one, how long have you been a realtor and why did you get your real estate license? Those are fun stories to hear.
Yeah. So I moved out here in February of 19 from Chicago, and I came out to work for my cousin over at Taylor Street Advisors. He was vice president over there. It's a big Marcus and Millchap group. A lot of guys left Marcus and went over and started their own firm off 24th and Camelback. So read a book by David Goggins, and I was like, I just kind of picked up my stuff and I was like, let's start a new life. So got my license, moved here in February of 19, got my license in April of 19, did commercial real estate at a firm for a year on the institutional side, and didn't make any money. And then the commission splits were different. There's so many guys who kind of take out of your pocket. So I went to a residential boutique brokerage and started kind of running my own shop and doing multifamily and commercial and assisted living assets, and then doing residential. And this past year, I've kind of dove into residential, like not exclusively, but I've been focusing on it. Commercial just kind of comes to me off LoopNet and CoStar. And then residential lately has been my passion. So
2019, you got into the business. So what was like those first few years like? I mean,
poverty?
Really?
Yeah.
It's nothing you were proud of?
My whole family is in, private equity, medicine, or law. And so I was kind of like the outlier and kind of did my own thing. So a lot of the family dinners around Christmas and Thanksgiving were like, what are you doing? Are you sure this is for you? And then obviously, it's funny, I had a 100-unit deal under contract in March of 2020 and then an 8-unit deal. And it was going to be like my first 6-figure month. Then COVID hit third week of March of 2020 and those deals fell through. And it was a rough one for sure. And then things started picking up.
How does one even find commercial deals? I being in the real estate space for 19 years, I mean, I've rarely even ever had anybody ask me if I do commercials. Yeah. So is that it's like a secret society or what's up with that?
So, yeah, I mean, you could say that. So I don't think it's being in the right rooms, but when I moved out here, I had no book of business. I knew nobody. So I got on social media, LinkedIn, Twitter. Surprisingly, I've closed some deals off Twitter. I kind of rebranded myself, deleted some old photos, headshots, and everything is real estate related. So I've met guys off LinkedIn, off Facebook, off Instagram, and I would go to real estate investor meetups, and I would ask these guys like their buy boxes. Hey, I'm looking for 50 to 100 units, 5.5, 6 cap on actuals. Or some of these guys that have 1031s looking to place money. So I'd write this down in my notes on my iPhone, and then I would just cold call. PropStream's been great for a lot of my listings and off-market deals, and so has LoopNet and CoStar. So it's just cold calling, guys who have 5 or 10 year holds on their multifamily properties and letting them know, hey, I got a buyer. Typically he'll pay my fee, even if he's not going to, just to kind of get myself in the door. So.
Do you find that like the commercial realtors know, or do they know how to hustle harder?
I mean, it's just so different. I think residential real estate's more competitive. I think commercial real estate's more monopolized. And when I say that, a lot of the bigger institutional firms, CBRE, JLL, they control the market share. ABI multifamily, as far as apartment complexes go. So, and then I know a lot of residential realtors that, are better agents than some of the commercial agents I've met. So I think it depends on the agent, but I mean, I respect everybody's hustle.
So it's like you're saying that less people own more of that, meaning like, so there's not as many, like, for example, like in residential, like everyone owns their house.
Yes.
So like you have more opportunities to meet one person that owns a house, therefore like get a transaction, where in the commercial game, it's more of like it's not as many people's hands.
Yeah, for sure. It's in a smaller group, and I've kind of been that outlier in the past couple of years, like being in a smaller shop, residential brokerage, doing some of these bigger commercial deals, and kind of like changing the narrative. But like, you know, it it's really tough to get most of the 100 unit apartment complexes trade off market anyways with like Goodman Real Estate, who's up buying everything in Deer Valley with that new manufacturing company that's up there. And then in residential real estate, like you might have closed 5 deals in a year, and if someone in Paradise Valley likes you, they'll give you the listing. It's kind of rare, a newer commercial agent getting 100 unit. That's usually going to go to Marcus or Seabury or JLL. So,
Okay. So how to run numbers.
that's one
That's the
thing I
game.
pride myself on, and it kind of irks me a little bit. I'll see a lot of residential realtors and realtors in general on social media being like, let me help you find an investment property. And then I'll look at it. I'm like, dude, we're at 7% interest rate. And like, you're telling your clients to buy a house that they're not going to cash flow. So numbers are my thing. Like the T12, the rent roll, underwriting, everything is something I pride myself on. So, yeah.
I like how you said that. I see some of these reels from people. They're like, you need to buy a duplex and live in one of them. I'm like, let me know where the duplex is. I'll buy it and I'll live in it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, do you get people that are like, right now I'm like, I get it. That's a cool reel, but tell me about this specific deal because I would like to actually buy it.
Yeah.
Then you find out there's really no deal. It's just it's a statement to buy a duplex and live in one side of it.
Yeah. And like that made sense when duplexes were like 150, 300K.
Rates were just, 2.8.
Yeah, seriously. Everything cash flowed. So I've seen a lot of duplexes on the MLS for like 5 to 700K. So if you are going to try and house hack with FHA, like I would only look at a fourplex.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like how you're talking numbers. I feel that that's just going to take you to the next level in residential real estate. Cause I think that's where I noticed, cause I talk to a lot of realtors, and what I find is I'll get some calls from people and they'll be like, hey, I just had this meeting with this client and I want some advice.
Yeah.
And here's what I do. When someone asks me for advice, I don't want to go to emotions. Right. I want all logic in this. Yep. And so they're like, hey, I need some advice on what I should say to them. I'm like, hey, well, what's their loan payoff?
Right.
Well, I don't know. Okay. Well, what was their mortgage payment? I don't know. Like, what was their interest rate? I don't know. Where are they trying to go? Yeah. I don't know. What's the house cost that they're trying to buy? I don't know. What's the rate right now? I don't know. And I'm like, this is like a math equation. I remember when I was in, like high school, and they'd put these equations up on the board. And I'm like, if Steve ran 7 miles and did this and drank 4 Gatorades, what? And I'm like, this hurts my brain. Yeah. But now I feel like if someone was like, if Steve wants to buy a $780,000 condo in Scottsdale and has a home that he bought 3 years ago on a 2.8%, like if that was on the board now, I'm like, okay, I totally get it. Like Steve needs to do this or not do this. So I feel like knowing those numbers like that, like that's what I think people are craving, because most clients, they want to know that they've got somebody who's not just like trying to sell them a house. Mm-hmm. They want somebody who's really like analyzing their situation, more of like a consultant, like this is what you should do based on the numbers and based on what you told me after this consultation.
And I think one of the differences with commercial and residential is like, typically if you're a really good agent, you know more about the market, interest rates, mortgages, loans, all that good jazz than your client. In commercial real estate, it's never the case, right? Because you kind of get quizzed. Hey, is this going to cash flow? Like, what's the cap on actuals? What's our 3 to 5 year exit? So like, if you don't know your numbers, the commercial guys will be like, this guy's an idiot. I'm not using him.
They'll just know based on asking you some questions, right?
They'll sniff you out. They got, 10, 15, $20 million assets under management. They deal with so many guys.
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember you messaged me on Instagram probably like 2 weeks ago, and you're like, hey, like those properties that you own, like were they all just bought on like this interest rate? So you can tell like how like analytical your brain is. Like that's not the question that most people ask.
Right.
And so I can tell like that's where your brain goes. So now you've been doing this for 5 years. What's your business primarily now? Like what's the ratio of commercial versus residential?
I would say 2 years ago it was like 70% commercial, 30% residential.
Okay.
And most of my residential deals were literally just listings. I've worked with maybe a handful of buyers, but I would get listings, and that was kind of my bread and butter. And I've seen the market change, and I've seen agents at my old office, who, how do I say this, who didn't really do deals, and now they have 5 to 6 listings. So it's a buyer's market, 100%. I don't care what anyone says. So now I always try and whatever everyone else is doing, I'm trying to do the opposite. And that's just kind of how I've been my whole life. So right now, especially, meeting you and Ari and all the other guys and, working on systems and buyer consultations, that's primarily what I'm focusing on.
Okay. So would you say you're working on buyer consultations? Like what's that consist of for you? Because like you said, like, I mean, you just said like you've been primarily listings and now you're going buyers. Like when you say you're working on that, what's that mean?
Everyone has an end goal, right? Whether I'm selling their property or like no one deal is going to be the same, so a couple could be getting divorced. Someone, I recently just did a deal. One of my younger agents referred me to one of his buddies and, his grandpa died. He inherited, millions of bucks. And, he was thinking about either getting a $2 or $3 million place. And we had a consultation. I was like, hey man, if you're going to buy cash, let's just stay at $1 million, put that, $2 or $3 million into stocks, dividends, some type of, high yield savings account, and don't blow all your money in a house and be house rich and cash poor. So I just interview them and I'm just authentic and I listen to them and what their needs are. And like, as you'd be surprised how many deals you can close. And something I want to work on in 2025 is systems and having everything down. But I think my greatest attribute is listening to somebody's problem and understanding that problem by, having empathy, putting myself in their shoes and creating a solution. Right. So that's kind of where I'm at now with that. And I'm trying to dial it in, but you can always get better.
I like how you recommended that they not maybe put their money in real estate. That's just cool to see.
Yeah.
I think I'm a huge proponent of people telling people what's up and not just tell them what might make you money.
Yeah.
So I'm the same way. Like when I meet an investor, it's straight up like, are you looking for cash flow? Or are you looking for long-term play?
Right.
And I help investors buy properties, but like they're making almost nothing.
Yeah.
Like I had a client, Greg, who just bought a house like maybe a month or two ago out in Buckeye. Okay. And I think he was going to have like $150 spread maybe. But like when I asked him, I'm like, are you trying to like live on this? Or are you trying to just like, is this parking money? And you're like, hey, in 15, 20 years, I've got something here in Arizona. He's like, dude, I don't need the money. I'm just parking this. Actually, it's a 1031 exchange. I'm like, there it is. Like that's the asset to him is the 1031. I'm like, so when people see some people playing a game, I'm like, make sure you know the game they're playing, because if that guy goes and tells people like, oh, I bought a house in Arizona and doesn't tell the whole story, I'm like, you were getting a 1031 and you need to park it. So you're probably saving money on taxes. So you weren't as interested actually in the deal as you were more in the like the taxes. And so it's like, you really got to like consult people, and you see people, it's like, hey, well, they're doing this, I should do it. Yeah. And I'm like, well, ask them more of the story on why they were doing it. Because if you like peel back the layers of it, it just might be like, I've known some realtors that they'll buy a house and I'm like, that didn't pencil out. Right. And like, I know, but I'm doing a cost segregation on it. This is my tax liability this year. And I'm like, oh, right. So like this is your tax liability. You're going to cost segregate it. So there's so many more ways that you're making money off this than just the not making sense on the deal.
Yeah. And your client, cash flow is probably priority 3 or 4, first one, write off for mortgage payments, parking for capital appreciation, 1031 and cost seg. And then it's probably like, maybe I'll make money year 1, but year, 3 and 4, I'll probably make some money as well.
It was cool. You were in that mastermind. Was it last week or the week before?
I think it was last week.
Yeah. So that was the Think Differently mastermind. It was cool to see you there. Were you were you in the room for the part where the guys talked on Zoom, the finance guys?
Yeah. Very humbling. Like, it's nice to be in the rooms where it's like, especially when you do a lot of deals, like sometimes real estate's emotional, right? Like some days you'll be feeling like you're on the top of the world, and some days you're like, fuck, I'm going to panhandle. You know what I mean? So, being in that room and being like, man, like, I think his name was Marshall. Yeah. And he just balls. And I was like, dude, this guy's the man. So it's just nice meeting a group of like-minded guys who are all striving for the same thing. And that's, building generational wealth, helping people and making money along on the ride. So, that was listening about tax strategies and SEPs and 401ks and stuff that like I really want to work on this year. I felt like it was just like I was in the room at the perfect time. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. I'm glad you said that. I could feel it, your energy talking about it. you know, those people that'll text me right before and be like, hey, like I got somebody who needs to look at a house. I can't come today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think you know what we're doing in there.
Yeah.
You know, like this
Yeah.
is like way higher level as far as like, I'm not saying like, don't go show your clients houses. It's just like, it's just something I've got to be at. I remember one of them, they put on the schedule and I had a snowboarding trip the day, like I was supposed to go on a snowboarding trip with my brother and I actually canceled it. And I was like, oh, okay, I can go snowboarding another day with you. Like I can't do that. Like that's only once a quarter. I'm getting in that room because every time I've gotten in that room, I've been so much smarter financially and or leverage wise. And my life's gotten better that I straight up was like, hey, I told my brother, hey, I can't go. I got to go to this. So we'll go snowboarding another time. Yeah. I'm not telling everyone to do that. It's just, that's how important that is to me. I liked in the portion of the finances is when they had talked, they'd said the stat, and I don't know the stat, but it was like a very high stat of like, it was athletes. And it said, hey, like, I don't even want to say the stat because I'll be wrong. It's like a high percentage of athletes that make like really, really good money. Like they go bankrupt like 5 years. A lot of them go bankrupt like 5 years after they get out of whatever league they're in. Yeah. And he was saying how, you know, people, I'm not going to say chuckle, that's the wrong word, but like they look at that and they're like, oh my gosh, they're so silly. Like you made 290 million and you don't have any money 5 years later. But it's interesting how we'll use such big numbers and then it's silly. But he was saying that like 92% of realtors, I don't know if the stat is correct, it's what he said, or I think it's what he said. 92% of the realtors don't own a rental property. Right. Or like 92% of the realtors just like they never have any type of retirement account. They have no way out. They can't usually sell their business. They haven't created anything of wealth. And it was he turned it on us in that room. It was basically saying like, hey,
I felt it.
Like, did you? Dude, yeah, he was looking at all of us and be like, hey, who's the 92? And what was the best part is the people at the end that were vulnerable that raised their hand. And those are some players in that room. Like there's people like spitting off some units and making really good money. There's some people vulnerable that were like, hey, that was the best part. Like they may have been the 92%, but like, that's what I want. I won't say names here, but because we keep that room, you know, tight. But like there's some people in that room that are my friends. And I was like, yes. Like when they said that was the favorite part, I was like, I am supporting that one right there. Cause like I want to see, so it's so cool that it took that room for them to see that they're making sometimes $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year. Yeah. And if you didn't park any money, a decade's going to go by and you're going to wake up and be like, I mean, what'd you do? Like just take trips and buy cars. Like that's not, it's like hard to be a retired man doing that. So it was just cool to see you there, man. And what did you also learn in that? Like, I mean,
I would say the number one thing I learned is you know, obviously real estate's a roller coaster, right? So it's like I mentioned, some days you'll be on this high and some days you'll be thinking you need to panhandle or blow it all up, right? So I just felt like that portion of that presentation spoke to my soul, right? Because like, you know, I sell all these multifamily properties and the end game is not me being a realtor. The end game is me being an owner, an investor. I want to buy businesses in the future. And, you know, last year I bought a house and like for a year I looked for a fourplex via FHA. And then I found like an instant equity play. I saw someone sold their house for $725 and this one was on Zillow with like an agent who had done like 4 deals, had a hard money loan, did some research. He had it for $550. I hit him for $450, got the deal. So it's like, I'm going to sell that next year, take my money, and then, you know, probably buy some out-of-state properties, like in that like 150, 200K range, just like smaller properties. And, you know, I've done a lot of Section 8 deals with some of my clients, and it's something that really, not inspires me, but like you're helping people and it's great money. It's, you know, some of these Section 8 deals are 120% of FMR, fair market rent, and it's direct deposit from the government. So it's something I'm keying in on and looking forward in the future.
Yeah. I love the conversation how they're trying to take realtors to actually having wealth, being business owner. I think it's super important. It's just the same. And I mean, I don't want to sound as if I'm being like judgmental, but it's like the realtors that are always like talking on Instagram, like you need it, like real estate's the best investment ever. Yeah. You know, and I'm like, I mean, I looked you up, you close a lot of homes, like how many rentals you have? And they're like, oh, I don't have any. And I'm like, I mean, I don't know. Like, can you go on Instagram or TikTok and say like life insurance the best and you don't have life insurance? Right. I don't know. I'm not saying like, not saying you have to have everything. I mean, you got to do something for the first time, but
Yeah.
it's just interesting to me where like, where's the congruency and like everyone should be doing this, but then yet like you're not doing it.
Yeah.
And if it was someone like, hey, like this is my first year and I'm just doing really well, like I'm going to cool. But sometimes you're like, hey, like you've been selling real estate for 9 years, you're doing really, really good at it, but yet like you don't have like that. And I don't know, maybe I don't know. Like I realized that when I was in that room, when people were raising their hand, I'm like, oh, whoa, like you don't like, and I learned a lot in that room, bro. Like I don't, I liked how it talked about like you just schedule your investing.
Right.
And I've always like kept a decent amount, like park it on the side and just buy chunks of whatever you're buying.
Yeah.
And I like that whole scheduling the investing. So one of my buddies, he's a realtor and he's just a index guy, or not just an index guy, but that's what I called him for. And I was like, hey, let's get this all set up.
Yeah.
You know, I know I'm 41, but you know, like the year's still young, you know, life's still young. So I went on this journey where I'm like, hey, like I'm going to park. I've always did it like, hey, here's the money, go buy this. And it was also, here's the money, what that mastermind also taught me was like, here's the money, now go search for the deal. Yeah. And I realized it's just like, hey, when you make really good income, like we do, you can just sometimes go park.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have some people like on my houses I bought out of state, like, well, you could have went here and got like a 2% more. And I'm like, do you know how much time it would have taken me with my life to go find a 2% more? It was easier for me to park it there because it was easy. And that 2% more, that would take a lot of time.
Yeah.
I took that time, went out and sold real estate, which I'm really good at. And so, yeah, I could have got 2% more, but I think you got to figure out where is your like best use of your time. So like, yeah, like my best use of my time is selling real estate for people.
For sure.
And then parking money into assets. And so if I was like a, you know, person who managed people and a lot of their money, maybe my job would be go find the 2% better because that's my job. Yeah. But it's not my job. And so I really like the scheduling, having that on like autopilot just to get it in like littler wins, hit singles and not always like triples. Not always feel like you got to hit a grand slam.
And in that mastermind, one of the guys brought up Unshakable by Tony Robbins. I read the book. And one thing that stood out to me was, you know, and there's so many people love to trade and, you know, do the crypto meme casino. I stay out of that. Is you just keep it simple. If you just go ETFs and mutual funds, you'll outperform 85% of traders. And once I read that stat in Tony Robbins' book, I was like, all right, like just keep it simple. I keep some of my money in a Robinhood account getting 4.5%. And then on August 8th, when the market dumped like 20%, my girlfriend and I bought some, we bought Hood, we bought SPY, VU, QQQ and stuff like that. So you just gotta keep it simple. When it dips, you buy, and then you can just DCA it, right? And just monthly. So
you know what's funny is you just spoke another language for like 12 seconds. I was like, I don't even know what you just said, bro. And it sounded like that was it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like to hit you up on that because I just hit up my buddy and like we're actually so cool. Like I hit up my buddy. I was like, hey, I need to talk to you about some stuff on like my E-Trade account. Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, like just hit me up anytime. I was like, no, I want to respect your time. Give me your Calendly. Like this is my homie.
Right.
Like give me your Calendly. He gave me his Calendly. I scheduled it for next week. And so like, even with like, I mean, he's one of my dear friends.
Right.
Like that's still how our relationship is. I'm like, no, I don't want to just like hit you up at night. Like you got a family. Yeah. Like, let me put some time on your calendar next week. This isn't like urgent, but like, he's going to spend 30 minutes with me and teach me how to use like my E-Trade account. Yeah. And he's like, Nolan was like, oh, you need to use like Robinhood or whatever. And I'm like, well, I know my buddy's going to be the one helping me on this end. So like, I should probably use whatever, like he's going to be my IT department because I don't know how to use it. So I'm going to use whatever is most convenient to him because he's going to be the one answering the questions. So,
and Robinhood had like a really bad stigma a couple years ago when it's like halted trading with, GameStop and I think AMC. But I mean, Robinhood is this generation's like Charles Schwab. Their platform, their CEO. Like I am so bullish on Robinhood. Like, they have 401ks, Roths. You can get 4.5% on your money just putting it in a cash brokerage account. So it like you got to ask yourself like, why would I even keep my money in Chase Bank?
Yeah.
Like you ever see those like 0.001 cent interest payments? It's like it's a joke. So yeah,
that's where I like how you said advise people to do whatever, like basically like answer the question not from a real estate perspective. Right. Like when people ask me questions now, I'm like, hey, just because I'm a realtor and I can make money doesn't mean that you should buy real estate. Like that doesn't always have to be my advice. So like that's where, I've been parking my money in just now. Like that's where I'm parking. I'm just actually like saving liquid and now I'm going to be parking it more and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's like there's not always these eras. I mean, yeah, does a deal come here and there that you can buy? Sure. But I mean, the question that you asked me 2 weeks ago, I'm like, yeah, my buddy Kevin, who led that mastermind,
He's
I remember
awesome.
being in one mastermind and he's like, how many people bought homes over the last 3 years and you weren't actually that smart? It was just the market.
Wow.
And I'm like, I raised my hand. I was like there was like, cause you couldn't even go do it again. Like those are you just have seasons in life and it's a right time. You seize the opportunity. But what's interesting about that, bro, is like how many people will like hit me up on that story. And I'm just like, that's the story today. Meaning you're seeing that. And so you're wanting to like maybe duplicate it. But if it can't be duplicated, I always joke people, I'm like, ask the person what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's 3 years later when someone sees the win and they're like, oh, I want to do that. I'm like,
too late.
well, that's done, bro. Like that, and then that person, like they're doing something else and it's 3 years later. Well, I want to do that. And they're always like behind if they're watching that person. And if they just really, instead of looking at that person saying, I want to do that, it should be, what are you working on behind the scenes right now that makes no sense to anybody else, but you're putting all your energy or all your money into it.
Yeah.
That in 3 years, someone's going to look up and be like, oh, I want to do that. And I'm like, too late, bro. Like, so that's what I think. I've tried to do that. I'm going to more and more people that I see where they're at in life. And I'm asking them, hey, you did these 5 things that are cool. Therefore, like, that's where I think the trust is. Like I mean, and they, we all lose, but like you've did enough things where like you win and you win and you win. So tell me, like, what at nighttime and what in the morning and what podcast are you listening to?
What do you see?
Like, what are you working on right now that like isn't a receipt or it's not in your bio of your Instagram that is going to be there in like 3 years? And like, what is that? And I'm asking more and more people that, cause I'm like, oh, cool. I want to like, let's talk more about that. Let me see if that's an arena I want to participate in. So,
and I know we're in real estate and we're in sales, right? But I think of real estate as a little bit different. I've told a couple of people, like, I don't think you should sell this property. And I've gotten so many deals or, referrals from that. And I think that's why going with a seasoned real estate agent, where, I mean, respectfully, like 20 grand's a lot of money, right? But 20 grand's probably not going to change the trajectory of our year or life. So, hey, I don't think you should sell that 3% interest fourplex that you have $300K of equity, but you're netting $3K a month. I'm big on cash flow over equity. Equity may or may not always be there, but like that cash flow, you sell that property, okay, cool, you just made 300 grand and you probably want to do a 1031. Where can you replicate that 3K a month net cash flow in a deal right now? You can't. So a lot of these people, whether it's multifamily or single family owners such as yourself, who got those, I'd probably like, I would, if someone's like, hey, I have a 2% interest, 2.8% interest loan on a fourplex, would you do this? I probably would. Like a lot of these guys are handcuffed to these loans. And I mean, I think it's life changing. Like we'll be lucky if we ever see, 4.25 again with where we are right now.
Yeah. Keep the house. That's my motto. How old are you?
Turned 35 in February.
35. I'm 41. Dude, keep on that mission.
Yeah.
I've been on that train for a while now. Like when we were in the mastermind, we were talking about value propositions. And when you figure out your value proposition, you know what to do next. And so we were talking about like, hey, what's everyone's value proposition? There's 45,000 realtors in Maricopa County. And I think that sometimes people are lacking the value proposition. They're just like, oh, I'm a good realtor. Yeah. I mean, that's cool once you're on the phone with somebody to tell them you're a great realtor. But like, what gets the phone to ring? What gets someone going out and raving about you to someone else? Yeah. That's how I look at it, as like distribution and networks. And I want to know like, hey, that somebody's going to go out and like rave about me. And I think the best way for my value proposition has been and will be is keep your house. Yeah. And I tell everybody that. I made a reel the other day about that, like keep your house. Yeah. And what it does is it keeps it keeps the wealth in someone else's family, right? It keeps it in their family. And then they got to go buy another house usually. Yeah. So I'm like, hey, like but it's great when the conversation starts there because when you're sitting at a table with somebody for the first time and you're like, hey, can I ask you a question? Like, what's your loan payoff? What's your, what, this is what it's worth. Tell me, like, more importantly, what's your interest rate? Right. What's your payment? oh my gosh, like I come in with rental comps to my listings now.
I love that.
Like people are like, that's my value proposition is I have rental comps. Like if I'm going up against 4 people, like good luck. I've got rental comps. I'm like, hey, what's your payment? They're like 1,400. I'm like, we can get 2,600 on this now. I don't even ask. Like I go all energetically where I'm writing down stuff now. They never even asked about it. And after 7 minutes, I'm like, do you want to talk more about this? And they're like, well, how would I buy the next house? And I'm like, well, what do you got allocated in your bank? I never ask them how much they have in their bank. How much do you have allocated in your bank for a down payment? And they're like, oh, like 30,000. I'm like, oh, how much of a house are you going to buy? 550. Okay. Oh, okay. Like, man, like we're gonna have to sell this thing. Right. You know, but like you're starting off with what actually matters because I don't know how. I think of Danny right now. He texts me, dude. And sorry to go on a rant on this. I'm just passionate. Is Danny hit me up today. Gives me chills talking about this. He said, hey, dude, I want to list the Chandler property. Hear me out. He got referred to me 6 years ago. He had a Levine house, a house in Levine. He bought it he got referred to me by my buddy. He didn't really know me. And I sat down with him at a pizza shop. I was like, what do you owe on this? He said $78,000 what he owed on this house. Wow. And I was like, at the time it was worth probably like 280. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, what's your mortgage? It was like 650. Jesus. And I'm like, all right, we're keeping this house. And he's like, no, I don't know if I want to keep it. I'm like, how much do you have allocated for your next house? And he's like, I have like 60, 70 G's. I'm like, all right, where are we going? He said, Chandler. I did the down payment. Like, you have enough. Are you cool using that without that? He's like, I don't know anybody who owns any rentals. I'm like, dude, I have 20 houses. So like, I'm your guy now. Like you said, you don't know anybody. You know me. Like, I'll help you. And he reluctantly kept that house and bought his next one. And then he hit me up like 3 years later. He's like, Chris, I got married and my wife wants to move into like our dream house. Right. And I was like, you ready for this, bro? I'm coming over. And he's like, no. Came over. I'm like, how much do you have allocated? And he's like, he had more now. He's growing up. Yeah. We bought that house. So now he has 3. But anyways, like a year and a half ago, he hits me up. He's like, hey, I'm going to get rid of the Levine house and pay off the Chandler house. And I'm like, and we went over all our goals. I'm like, okay, cool. We sold that. He paid off his Chandler house. Hit me up just this morning. He said, hey, dude, the tenants are out next week. I'm doing the final walkthrough. I'm selling that. I'm going to pay off my drink. I'm paying off the house that I'm in now. Wow. Dude, to know that he's paying off the house he's in now is like paid off at like 38 years old. Yeah. Paid off by like me sitting down and not making $8,000. Right. And what's interesting about that is how many referrals I got from that because he's telling everyone this guy just told me to keep my house. Yeah. What's probably the most interesting is how people would be like, well, you're losing money. I'm like, not really. He sold a Levine house. Right. He sold the Chandler house and he sold them all for probably $200,000-$300,000 more later. Yeah. So if I'm working off commission, not only did he walk away with more money to pay off the houses, I actually walked away with more commission. Right. So it's like, dude, stay on that mission. I know. It drives the whole conversation, bro. It makes it where you now know how to message your social media. You know how to message your emails out to people. Right. You know how to reach out to people. It's just like if you're congruent with that message, you know like what to do. So I just love that you said that.
And it's providing value, right? And it's like, you might tell Tom not to sell his house. And, like I said, we're all in sales and real estate agents, but like I look at myself as an advisor too. Like I put myself in their shoes. It's like, hey, this might not be the right move right now. And you pay it forward. And like you get reward in life when you do things the right way. I firmly believe that.
Are you doing like my boot camp that I teach, like the repeat and referral stuff?
I think you sent me a link a couple of days ago.
Dude, take that because if you take what you just said, like that's in your heart, I can tell by how you said it. That's why I'm leaning into this. If you take that, keep your house mentality. It's you're saying I love the consumer. Like I'm looking out for them. If you take the knowing the numbers, your commercial space, and then you take that boot camp where it's marketing, it's how to market to the people that you know, like you love you and trust you. Like I know you're doing PPC right now. We're gonna talk about that next. But when you hit me up and you're like, hey, bro, I want you to help me with PPC, which I did. The one that you really should have been hitting me like that's the sexy one. That's like people hitting up someone like, hey, I want to learn TikTok. Right. And I'm like, that's cool. Like still my buddy, like he closed 39 homes last year. He's good at it. But
he's amazing
I'm like,
at it.
If that's the one that you want to do, like it's really the repeat and referral. It sounds so old, man, but it's the postcards every single month. It's the letters and the magnets. It's the text quarterly. It's the client appreciation events. If you take who you are as a person and you package it up with knowing your numbers when you sit down at a table, that's going to get you to more tables back to them. It's going to get you to their cousin's table. It's going to get you to their coworkers' table more and more. Lean into that, bro. Okay. Because that's where you're just going to compound and compound. Sorry, I didn't want this to be like a coaching session. So.
No, I'm here for it.
All right, cool. I was like, sometimes I'm just like vibing. I'm like, let's just go, right? So I'm following up with you on that. So you said you have the link?
Yeah, you texted
Right.
me a couple days ago.
All right, I'm gonna text it to you again when we leave.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna win for you, dude. I'm gonna
Dude.
follow up with you in 6 months and be like, what's your story?
Dude, you can follow up with me next week. Like,
Uh,
I'll be dialing in this
Well,
weekend.
what's
So
funny, dude, is on my phone so I hit up like Zach recently. I was like, hey, how's this boot camp working for you? He sent me over. He's like 8 pending. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what's this from? And he's like, oh, in your boot camp, you call it the Bowers Blitz. I call it the Zach Attack.
yeah, I love it.
I hit up Avo and I'm like, hey, Avo, how's the boot camp working for you? And
Yeah.
it's like, he calls it his last name's like Awanes. And he's like, oh, I call it the Awanes and Blessing. So
love
I went from
that.
the Bowers Blitz to the Zach
Yeah,
Attack
yeah.
to now
Yeah.
we're just like, who can come up with the most
Yeah.
creative name to, get in front of people. Let's talk about like PPC now. So what made you, which PPC means pay per click. It's
Right.
going on Google and paying for ads.
Mhm.
It's a sport. It's not for me the most fun sport, but
Right.
it pays, and I
Yeah.
like to make income so that I can give it away and help my family.
Same.
What made you want to even participate in that game?
I did PPC in like 2020, and I had a little bit of.
Okay.
I was familiar with Sierra, and then, I just kind of had like like every year I just have like those tough conversations of like, yeah, you're making great money and like you're the guy, but like you can always get 1% better. So it's like humbling yourself and being like, okay, dude, like your CRM shouldn't be your phone. Like you're doing 12 to 15 mil a year, and like I meet you guys and it's like, fuck, dude, I'm leaving so much on the table. And obviously I'd say 100% of my business has been organic, off social media, off open houses, right? Referrals, LoopNet clients. So, I'd like to work with buyers, and marketing is huge, right? Look at TikTok, and obviously I see so many of my friends having success with PPC leads. So I was like, you know what? I'll throw some money at it and, start dialing in.
So when you said most people's CRM is your phone, was that you?
Yeah.
Is it right now still?
Well, I have Sierra now, but I mean, my whole life, like,
So you don't even have like your past clients in a CRM?
I have them. So I use Google Sheets. So I have like my commercial guys, like, hey, this guy owns these commercial properties and his buy box is this. So anytime I would get off market commercial deals, I'd pull up my Google Sheets and like look, oh, this guy would buy a 50 unit 5 cap or whatever. But no, I text messages and notes. So now I'm just dialed in. I'm not using Google Sheets as much. And on the residential side, I'm using Sierra.
Cool. Well, Google Sheets in our business is like, it's a good source of putting data.
Mm-hmm.
So like it has all the closed deals.
Yeah.
And then the Google Sheets is also good. So it holds our ROI accountable. So I don't know if you're going to do this yet, but do this. If you're doing PPC, best way to do it, in my opinion, is we got to hold it accountable.
For sure.
I feel like some people, because I've helped a lot of people do that business and build it. And what happens is, like for us, it might be like 136 leads to close a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll come to me and they'll be like, hey, Chris, like I've only closed one deal in 3 months. And I'm like, well, how many leads did you get in this 3 months?
Right.
They're like, oh, I got 120 and I closed the deal. And I'm like, that's the sport.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing really good.
Yeah.
Like, why'd you come to me as a Debbie Downer? Like, that's the
Mhm.
sport. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, it takes like 136 leads to close a deal.
Right.
And everybody's ratio is different based on skill level, scripts, whatever. But it's interesting. Like, you've got to know the sport you're playing. Like, if it costs 130, if it's 136 leads to close a deal and a lead's $14, I'm doing bad math. I'm saying, like, let's just make it up. Like, let's say it costs $2,800 to acquire a customer.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, if it took you $2,800 to acquire the customer, well, what's your average pay-per-click deal? And they're like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, well, let's find that out.
Yeah.
Well, it's $16,000. I'm like, okay, so it costs $2,800 to acquire a customer and you made $16,000. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, and you spent $2,800 over 3 months and made $16,000. Yeah. I'm like, why don't we spend $2,800 a week and close 4 and 16 times 4? Like, that's the game. So
Right.
it's interesting how, like, we've got to make, so the Google Sheets, I think, keeps us logical. It's like the scale.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, step on the scale. You know what you weigh. You actually weigh what you weigh no matter what. But if you step on the scale, you know how to improve. I feel like the spreadsheets are that too. But the CRM, man, like, I'm glad you're entering that space.
Yeah. No. I'm glad I'm just not like free balling it, kind of like I said earlier.
Yeah.
So just getting dialed in, systems, making my life easier. So
I was on a Zoom yesterday. It was a coaching call. It was actually 2 agents. And we were talking about CRMs. And he's like, why do you have 2? And I was like, well, I actually have 3, but we won't go there. But I was like, I have 2. And he's like, why? And I'm like, okay, so Sierra is where I get internet leads.
right.
And so I have like 27,000 leads in there.
That's insane.
But I'm like, I log into that. It's kind of the same as like when I played pickleball for the first time, and I was telling my friends, I'm like, this is like ping pong, but you're standing on the table.
Yeah.
And they're like, where does your brain come from? This is the same thing. So like CRMs are, the Sierra one is an online lead, 27,000 in there. and I call those people, and it's more of like, I know I'm going to call them a lot.
Yeah.
I'm cool double dialing them.
Mm-hmm.
I could be on a Dateline and get murdered.
Right.
My wise agent is these are my past clients.
Yeah.
These are the people that they like me, they love me, they trust me, they support me. I'm going to invite them to like a football game. I'm going to say happy birthday to them. So it's like lead comes in, PPC, it costs $2,800 or whatever to acquire that customer. Once I close, then it goes over into wise agent. And wise agent, why I like that is it treats it like it's like a household.
Yeah.
Where it's not a lead game, it's a household. It's like, this is one record, and it's
like a community.
Yeah, it's like a husband, wife, 3 kids, you know, all their birthdays. It's like, you know, that under one roof, there's a lot of relationships you're trying to keep alive and connect with. So that's how I look at the CRMs. And that's why I have 2.
Okay.
But so just letting you know, like that could help. But you're probably going to say what the other guy said on the Zoom. He's like, couldn't I just tag that in Sierra? And I'm like, don't get crazy on me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm a boomer, right?
Yeah.
You said like tag him, but like the point was, I said I could tag him and I get it, but I like to go in that knowing like, am I playing like ping pong or am I playing pickleball?
Yeah.
Kind of the same, not the same,
Yeah.
but like just knowing the sport you're getting into, where I'm gonna get hung up on here, and people are gonna answer here.
That makes sense.
And then to go back to the repeat and referral, and why I'm pitching this to you, is like my listing appointment Saturday. Dude, this is gonna be your story soon. Listing appointment Saturday or tomorrow is a PPC lead that was 6 years ago. They were renting.
Wow.
Bought a house. And so once they bought, I put them into my wise agent now, do my boot camp where I'm like, hey, like postcards, letters, magnets, client events. And then they called me, they want to sell that house and buy another one. So it just shows you how like you're going to start seeing so many wins. So props to you on that. So where do you feel like, what are you most excited about building right now?
That's a tricky question. I think automation, structure. I've always, I went to military school as a kid, so I thrived in structure. And then, obviously I came out here and didn't have a CRM, still was closing deals. And then I see all my friends, like, just with so much structure, it just makes their life easier. And then, obviously you have 2 CRMs that like referral.
3.
Okay, 3.
But I didn't want to talk about the other one.
No, that's fine.
I don't want to bore everybody.
So I think that's what I'm looking forward to most this year is just going through the process, right? Because I mean that's the best part of, achieving any goal is like, when you're up on the mountaintop with a Ferrari and you're like, all right, what am I doing now? Like grinding, showing homes, going through the Bincer, like that is what you should love the most, not the check, personally.
Yeah. So with us still having like, I don't know, what do we have, 8-9 more months? Like what's the goals for this year? And you don't have to say money goals, but like what's the overall goal, even if it's like personal ones?
I want to do like $25 million for sales. Personal goals, I got my eyes on a 4-plex up North Arizona, direct to seller. It's perfect. It really is. I think I'm going to be able to walk in, at $500K and it's worth $750, and then work with the county and go Section 8 and be grossing about $7,000 a month, refinance. I might go hard money, refinance, and my mortgage payment will be $3,800, and then I'll be able to cash flow. Long-term goals, I want $10K a month from rentals.
Okay.
I'm looking at single-family homes, but obviously right now it doesn't make sense for the numbers I want.
Do you think that'll pencil out again one day?
It has to. It has to.
When do you think that'll be?
It really depends on the Fed and where our economy goes. Like, there's so much uncertainty right now.
What do you think the rate has to get to? Like, I'm just. Like,
I
what do you think the rate has to get to for? Like, I don't hunt for deals, but I'm not even like looking. Like, if someone was like, "Hey, do you want to look at this?" I'm like, no, like, huh?
5.5. Like, we should have never gone into the 7s. If we were at 4.25 and then they upped it, 100 plus basis points, and then you're in the 5s, then you drop it down, and then the floodgates open again. Because people don't realize, like, in my opinion, interest rates make the world go round. Because, you got 1031 guys, you got institutional buyers, they're looking to cash flow. And when things are at 6.5%, 7.5% interest, like, it really eats up into that cash flow. So
with you doing both commercial and residential, is there ever a point where you would refer one out?
Yeah, triple net leases. I got a younger agent I just took from Collier International, so he works under me, and I'm teaching him multifamily right now, but he's like 24, super mature and smart. He's closed a lot of commercial deals, and he specialized in retail, industrial, and triple net, something I didn't do, but I had clients that wanted that. So like, I'll never do a deal if I don't know how to do it for money. I'll always like ask or refer it out. But, right now, I think for commercial, I'm just focusing on like warehouses, multifamily, and assisted living facilities are like my bread and butter.
Huh.
So
I refer you those then?
for sure.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I had one of my inspector last week refer me a piece of land, and I was like, dude, I thank you so much for you thinking of me, bro. But like, that's not my jam. And so I look at it as just because I can make money off of it because I have a real estate license, like legally I can go make money off of it. If I cannot add a massive amount of value to the transaction, then I don't feel like I should be participating in it. Like if I'm Googling the night before, where's this well? And I'm not saying I don't do well property. I'm just saying like there's very few land listings that I would take. Like if it's in like a master plan community where like sewer says like 6 feet away, I'm like, okay, cool. Let's build that custom home in Sherwood. But if you're like land and I'm like, where's the electric? That's like my first question. Like how far is the electric? Like it's 6 miles. I'm like, that's not,
and that goes
that's not me, man. Like I'm not going to add any value to this. Like I don't have the avatar buyer for it. I don't have the skill set for it. And it's interesting how it's like, and I'm not saying you don't ever go learn something, but it's interesting to me how like people they won't be like the mentee on that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't think that just because this can be your first transaction, I don't know if it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes you got to be like that mentee on a few things where you're making a lot less just to learn.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like everything's an opportunity. I'm like, if you're not doing the client, like, but I guess that's where on the other end, like with the internet leads I was calling today, I guess like me knowing my lane, like that's where I'm like, get on the phone, I'm like just like uber confident when I'm like, so those ones I'm like, you should be using me and this is why.
Yeah.
So it's like knowing what you're great at and then knowing what you like suck at.
Mm-hmm.
Like knowing what you suck at actually like makes you like, you can get more confident in what you're great at. Cause like you're like, hey, I don't just like take anything. Like this is my lane. Like you should use me. Do you feel like there's realtors out there that are doing both that shouldn't be?
For sure.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Back to the like, I've seen a lot of agents, especially on social media, saying they do commercial or multifamily, and it's just like I just don't say anything. But it's like, hey, I looked you up on CoStar. I was under contract a couple years ago on a fourplex deal, and the guy's like, yeah, like, I'm a multifamily specialist, and I'm like, bro, you closed a duplex, like, come on.
Wait, so like this isn't like so the data's not out. I mean, the data's like private, right? It's not like we don't have an ESP channel for realtors where it just goes over all our stats.
No, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm weird. So I like knowing who I'm getting in bed with or doing business with. So anytime I get an offer on one of my residential, I'll look them up on homes.com. They'll be like, oh, 30 million sales in past 3 or 4 years. They know what they're doing. I'm confident they can get us to the finish line.
Yeah.
And then commercial, I'll look them up on CoStar or whatever, just so I get a better understanding of maybe they lack the knowledge or maybe they know what they're doing. So I'm going into the deal with more information, just kind of, gathering that information.
Right on, man. Cool. Any personal goals for this year as we're wrapping up?
Personal goals, own a fourplex, continue helping families and, working on myself and systems for sure.
Okay.
Maybe another CRM down the line. I don't know. No, we'll get crazy. Yeah, and then just structure.
Okay.
So
let me know how I can support you on that. I mean, we have a lot of systems, probably too many. So anything you need, just email my office. We got you.
All right.
Cool, man.
Cool.
Appreciate the conversation.
Thanks, brother.